Good day, everyone. Our topic for today is about research in childhood and adolescent development. Our objective for today is that the students were able to identify the different research method in child and adolescent development. First of all, I would like to discuss the principles of research. Teachers as consumers or end users involves decision related to educational policies and curriculum, effective teaching and even involving research. And now, let's talk about research. It can be done high level of quality, integrity, provide us with valuable information about child and adolescent development. It is a kind of research that is studying about the development of the child to be able to conduct a quality research. It is better for us to know the various research design and different data gathering techniques used by developmental researchers in conducting the research. Here are some research methods in child and adolescent development. The first research method is the case study. Case study, an in-depth look at an individual and compose a detailed portrait of a single individual development. It contains individuals' information about family background, social economic status, and house records of the child or the work history of the parents. Other information can be obtained through interview and biographies of the child. However, the researchers need to exercise caution when generalizing the information. It is because there are information that cannot be included in the research or there are other resilient information that only the parents of the child will know. The second child and adolescent method development is naturalistic observation method. Naturalistic observation method. It allows to study the behavior as they actually occur in a natural environment, making no effort to manipulate environment or to alter behavior. So this kind of research method is you are going to serve the behavior of the child that occurs specific settings. Like if she's together with her family, if the child is together with her friends and other people. Well, there is disadvantages in using this kind of method. Like it is hard to determine because of behavior and the experiment or cannot control outside variable like those typically occur in a private setting. Because you as a researcher did not interview or did not ask the personal information about the child or that is the reason behind his or her behavior.
Clinical method. The subject is treated as a unique individual through giving freedom to search for answers to questions asked, ensuring that the participant understands the meaning of the question asked. This method helps find out how children think. It is also primarily used to collect detailed information on the behavior problems of maladjusted and deviant cases. It is antisocial behavior, emotional disturbances in the area of learning, and backwardness in school subjects. The characteristics of clinical method. First is, it is applicable to individual cases. Second, to the individual who has some problem. Third, it gives pleasure in making mankind healthier and better. Let's have correlational method. Correlational method showing the direction and magnitude of the relationship between variables. They can tell whether two variables are related positively or negatively and to what degree. However, it cannot determine cause and effect. In correlational method, there are three types. First is the positive correlation. It means that both variables change in the same direction. Second, negative correlation means that the variables change in opposite directions. The third one is zero correlation. It means there is no relationship between the variables. Longitudinal method. Longitudinal method observes the same individuals in different point in time, like the children of migrant workers, whose development will be studied at early intervals. This will allow the researchers to record and monitor developmental trends. It is a study of any social or development research involving collection of data from the same individuals or groups across time. Longitudinal studies allow social scientists to distinguish short from long-term phenomena such as poverty. If a poverty rate is 10% at a point in time, this may mean the population experiences poverty for 10% of the time.
Disadvantages of longitudinal method. Practice effect. When children are given the same test many times, they may become test twice. Improvements over time that is attributed to development may actually stem from practice with a particular test. As improvements in cognitive test performance due to repeated evaluation with the same test materials, it traditionally been viewed as sources of error variance rather than diagnostically useful information. Like for example, practice effects are influences on test results when a test is taken more than once, as as practice can increase your overall score. Selective attrition. Another problem is the constancy of the sample over the course of research. Some children drop out because they move away. Others may simply lose interest and choose not to continue. In psychological experiments, selective attrition describes the tendency of some people to be more likely to drop out of a study than others. This tendency can threaten the validity of psychological experiment. If researchers were conducting an experiment on treatment for anxiety, for example, the results of the study might be biased if people in the experimental group drop out at a higher rate than those in the control group.
Cohort effect when children in a longitudinal study are observed as a period of several years, the developmental to the particular generation. Okay, what is cohort? Cohort is a group of people that born in the same way. For example, they grow up with different experiences than the cohort of generation exerts. Okay, what is cohort effect? Cohort effect is the influence of historical experiences on the outcome data. It is a variations over time in one or more characteristics among group of individuals defined by some shared experience such as year or decade of birth or years of a specific exposure. So, any given population comprises multiple subcohorts with different rates of exposures and outcomes. For example, people became parents in the same year, people who retire at the same time, and lastly, all of the students who went to a particular school during a certain time period. That is the examples of cohort effects that involve changes across groups with the same birth year. How do you account for cohort effects? The only way to guard against cohort effects when investigating the way people change over time is to perform a longitudinal study. That would be all for the cohort effect. Cross-sectional method, individuals of different ages are compared or tested at the same time. It uses representative samples at two or more age levels on the same measures. It allows the researcher to record and monitor developmental trends and more convenient to use than a longitudinal method. However, it cannot provide information about how individuals change or about the stability of their characteristics. A cross-sectional method is a type of research design in which you collect data from many different individuals at a single point in time. In cross-sectional research, you observe variables without influencing them. So these are the advantages. Because you only collect data at a single point in time, Cross-sectional studies are relatively cheap and less time-consuming than other types of research. Next is a cross-sectional studies allow you to collect data from a large pool or subjects and compares different between groups. So these are the disadvantages. It is difficult to establish cause and effect relationships using cross-sectional.
In our next topic, we tackle about action research. Action research is a reflection process of progressive problem solving by individual working with others in teams or as part of a community of practice to improve the way they implemented and stakeholders are involved. Its old is specific to an organization, that is, it cannot be interpreted within different organizations. In action research, we need to identify problems within our boundaries. So the people who are part of the problem must also be the one to give solution to the problem they are involved with. Through action research, immediate action to problems are being emphasized. It is a collaborative effort of the people involved in addressing the concern, thus preventing it from becoming worse. It requires problem-solving skills and critical thinking skills as well. Example for that is in adolescent stage, they know how to manage in the different situation. Like if they have a problem, they know how to solve it. They know how to manage it because they already know their capacity to solve their own problem. So, experimental method. The only true and reliable method of determining cause and effect relationship. It involves manipulating variables to determine if changes in one variable cause change in another. Scientific experiment must be conducted and reported in such a way that another investigator can replicate them to verify validity of results and conclusions. In the experimental method, if you want to determine the cause and effect relationship of a particular phenomenon, the most reliable method to be used is experimental method. In this method, scientific process of investigating things is being practiced. Thus, the accuracy and reliability of the result is high. When we conducted experimental methods, we will be manipulating variables, and during the process ato nato makita, thus one variable affect the other or through keen investigation. We can determine the relationship between two variables if or it is also in this type of research method we undergo a trial and error process until we can come up with the most accurate result. For example, in this adolescent stage, they already have plan and their own. They fight their parents about their family protocols because in that stage of adolescent, they already have their own experiment to do different things like suway nagpagala-gala or some bisyo because gusto nilang suwayan kung unsa jud ang life kung musuway sila ana. Because in that stage, hilig na kina sila mag-explore, but with the guide of parents, parents know how to control their children so they can understand why dili sila pwede. And that is also an experimental method that are given appropriate solution.